Greetings and welcome to Bloodborne. Today I'll be covering Central Yharnam and the Cleric Beast. If you're following this new, brace yourself, because if you're new to Bloodborne or new to any FromSoft game, this game will kick your ass. But it is fun when you learn it, and that's hence why I'm let's playing it for you guys. It's post-commentary, and this time around unfortunately. I wanted to do live, but on all my live run-throughs I was missing way too much for me to warrant continuing. So through post-commentary I can just get through the game, get everything I need to get, and then go from there. I will be defeating every single boss in this run, but I will not be picking up every single weapon there is to get because it's just too much time wasting to hunt them down. The character creator isn't anything spectacular, but it does what it needs to. I usually go military veteran, and for this run I decided to name my character Laylee Power, just because then it's short for LP. Because I thought that'd be just it's stupid, but it's just something for the sake of this game having a pun that I can just say, oh, here's LP on her adventure. And this game does have a very deep and detailed lore, but it won't tell you it. The game is extremely tight and closed off about its lore. If you want to find out more about the lore, you got to read item descriptions, you got to read armor and weapon descriptions, and you got to pay attention a lot to conversations in the background, because it will not just give you the story. But that's what I enjoy with this game, with all FromSoft games. If you don't care for the story, it's not there as far as you're concerned. If you do care for it, there's so much to work with. And yeah, Dark Souls has a lot of deep holes, but Bloodborne doesn't. Bloodborne gives you everything, which is in one aspect very good and another aspect quite annoying. Because like with Dark Souls, because it didn't give you everything and never gave you everything, there was a lot of stuff that was left to your imagination, whilst in Bloodborne you can figure out absolutely everything in this. When the game's opening up here, the best thing to take from this is not the big nightmare threat coming from the werewolf. To take the fact of this, it's weak to fire. Any blood echo based being will be weak to fire, so any beast will be weak to fire. Any kin or insight based monster will be weak to electricity instead. So the elements are very simplified compared to Dark Souls, and I will be making comparisons to Dark Souls. I'm not the biggest Dark Souls enthusiast. I don't know everything with it, as we're getting inappropriately touched by these messengers, but I will make the odd comparison. I am more of a Bloodborne guy than Dark Souls. I know that's not everyone, but that's me, so I'm happy to let's play it for you guys. When we start the game, that's Yosefka's clinic. I said, at the start of every part I will say what we're going through, which is why at the start I quickly said Central Yharnam and Cleric Beast. I plan to try and get through one boss fights per part, but as I've already recorded all of this, I know for a fact there are a few parts where you don't fight at boss fights. I do try and make up with it. There's one part much later on where I fight two bosses instead, in one part, because it's easier to get them both out of the way because they're quite close to each other. In this section up ahead, there's so many other things you can do other than fight the werewolf. If you can get a charged attack on its back, you can actually stun it and kill it, which is what I try to do. You can run past it, or you can just do what I do and just, well, get massacred by it, which is why I sped it up, just because it's just me running around for like 20 seconds trying to kill it before it kills me. I will be talking over most of the cutscenes because this is post-game, and later on there's a lot of stuff I'll need to talk about, like strategies and what to look for. Especially with boss fights. So some of the boss fights you really need to know what you're doing to get through them. But this, when you die in first spawn here, this is the hunter's dream. This is your safe zone. Nothing can harm you here, unless you like reach the final boss, but that will be a story for much later in the game. But as a whole, nothing can harm you here. This is your safe zone where you can buy, sell, upgrade, etc, etc. I always go with the cleaver and the basic pistol when you're choosing your weapons at the start. The axe can be the better option with its damage output and the fact that if you charge up its R2 it can hit twice, but I prefer the cleaver, it's just quicker. I prefer speed over aggression usually. If you go back on yourself when you respawn, I'm going to be cutting out the load times anyway. If you go back on yourself when you respawn here, you can get a Yosefka blood vial from the top of the stairs. They restore a lot more than the normal blood vials. Normal blood vials in these games, you can hold up the 20 in this. That's a parry. You can hold up the 20 in this, but they'll only restore about a third of your health per usage. Every time you die, all your experience points, or blood echoes, will be dropped on the spot. If you're killed by an enemy, there's a good chance that enemy will pick up your blood echoes instead. So when I killed that werewolf, I got my blood echoes back. And what I did during that was a parry. If you shoot an enemy and the bullet hits them when they're mid-swing, so not when they're charging up and not just when they've just finished it, they will be stunned by it, and you can capitalise with a visceral attack. Visceral attacks, good luck pronouncing it, but visceral attacks do massive damage, and later on you can get abilities that allow you to actually drain health from the enemy so that get some back. This guy, look how much health that does. Your health bar is the red on the top left, the stamina's beneath it, blood vials beneath that, and then your quicksilver bullets on the bottom. The big space is your quick inventory, but I've got nothing in it right now. Most enemies early on will drop blood vials just so you can start building them up. But later on, hardly anything will drop blood vials, and you'll start reaching points where, if you haven't looked after yourself, you'll run out. Molotov cocktails are there as well. They're worth noting. They'll make the first boss, Cleric Beast, an absolute joke if you choose to abuse them. I only use a few of them during the boss, but I'll at least show how effective they can be in draining its health. The game is good with its atmosphere, trying to build up horror. Like, it's not a horror game, but it has its moments where it'll make you go, oh fucking hell. This is a guy just giving you like a basic idea of what's going on. You can skip through dialogue by pressing X. Actually, I'll quickly go over the controls. X is your interact, your pick up or talk. Circle's dodge. If you hold it, you'll sprint. Triangle uses a blood vial to heal. Square is your quick inventory. Up on the D-pad will pump yourself with blood bullets, but that will cost health, and so it's basically if you run out of bullets you can give yourself more bullets at the cost of health. Left will swap your gun on the fly if you choose to equip two, and same with right will change your trick weapon on the fly. Trick weapon it's basically the name of the swords, because every weapon can double up as something else, so they're called trick weapons instead. Down scrolls through your quick inventory. I was trying to remember what it was for a second. Yeah, it scrolls through your quick inventory, which is helpful if you've got, because you can have up to 6 items on your quick inventory, which sort of ends up defeating the purpose of quick if you've got 6 all being used, but hey ho. R1 is your light attack, R2 is your heavy attack. Hold R2 for a heavy R2. That'll do a lot of extra damage and can stun enemies if you hit them in the back with it. L1 will change your weapon's ability to whatever it is. If you press it whilst mid-swing, it will do a change attack. If you tap forward as you tap R2, you'll do a jumping attack. There's dodging attacks if you press your tap button just as you come out of a dodge. L2 will shoot. And yeah, that's like the basic rundown of the controls. There is a lot of little extra complicated stuff, like if you stand still, tap circle, you'll backstep. But if you backstep, and you can actually follow up with a backstep attack, which for a lot of enemies is like a quick jab. This enemy here is an executioner. Word of advice, if you're following this along, it might be an idea to avoid this thing. I'm doing it because I'm up for the challenge, and I'm relatively okay at parrying, even if I did take the hit there. Because this guy can put you down in 2. And it would take like 500 hits to take him down normally at this current level, but he's very susceptible to visceral attacks, hence why I can kill him in 2 with it. He's immune to Molotov cocktails, as you saw, and more often than not he will drop free blood vials. I don't have a strategy guide for Bloodborne on me, but I should hopefully be able to explain a lot of stuff as we go along. There are a few stuff that I will point out when it comes that I just don't know, because I tried to stay away from walkthroughs and learn a lot about this game myself as I went through. So my way through the game should be quite different to other people's run through the game, because my run through it tends to be I go to areas as soon as I can, with one exception, that being Canehurst Castle. I only go to that after Rom's down. And you have no idea what I'm going on about with the bosses. I personally recommend going through and learning the game yourself. This walkthrough is for people who know the game and have at least beaten it, but just want to know how it can be done smoother, like different ways through it, and where all the boss fights are if you missed all the optional ones, because there's a lot of optional bosses in this game. And I will be going after all of them. I've also recorded the old Hunters DLC for this as well, which that's interesting when we get to that. Because I'm very underleveled for the old Hunters DLC by the time we reach that, but I go for it anyway, and yeah, we have a few interesting experiences, but we'll save that for much later. The other thing is, if you've just started this game, don't get any more than 2 enemies to aggro on you on once, because you won't stand a chance. You need to, if you've only just started, you probably won't have a good idea of crowd control unless you're like a Dark Souls enthusiast, in which case you probably already know what the hell you're doing. It's just you're replacing your shield with a gun. If you take a hit, there'll be like an orange section in your health bar for a while. If you hit enemies during that, you can restore that orange bit back, so it encourages a more aggressive playstyle in Bloodborne. Which is probably part of the reason why I end up enjoying it more than Dark Souls, because I'm an aggressive player, and Dark Souls requires a lot of patience that I just don't have, unfortunately. Which you can say that's not really a fair criticism, which it isn't. Dark Souls is a great game, it just wasn't my cup of tea because of the playstyle required for it. I've heard Dark Souls 3 is a bit more open to playstyle, so you can be more aggressive, but probably won't pick that up for a while yet. I'll probably pick it up when it's cheaper. There's a lot of shortcuts as well in Central Yharnam, now that I think about it. Because when I've done like toying around and looting a lot of stuff, there's more blood vials over here. So once I've done toying around, I'll point it out, and I think I do actually like open it up in case you want to go to it. But there's a shortcut that gets you a lot quicker to the second boss of the game, or the first main boss of the game, because Cleric Beast is optional. Down here, if you drop down there, that's a very quick shortcut to Father Gascoigne, the second boss, or the first main boss of the game. I'm going to refer to him as the second boss as far as I'm concerned, but there's a very quick shortcut to him down there, but I wholeheartedly don't recommend it, because Father Gascoigne will kick your ass even if you are a huge Dark Souls nut, because he really encourages the aggressive playstyle, because he's very aggressive on you. And if you've just come off Dark Souls, where you're used to being quite controlled and quite defensive, yeah, Gascoigne will fuck you up. There is an item back here, oil urns. If you throw an oil on the enemies, they'll take more damage from fire, unless they're already resisting the fire, in which case you're wasting an item. The Cleric Beast coming up, after I get fucked up by the dogs, the Cleric Beast coming up is very weak to fire, which is why I said you can use the Molotov cocktail on him. That dog took that Molotov cocktail for me like a champ. And here's the other thing, I am no perfect player in Bloodborne. You're going to see me get battered about a lot and die a few times along the way. But I will be getting through the game. And if it's dumb deaths, I'll either edit it out or I'll throw it all together at the end, sort of like a montage. Or if it's just like... Or if I keep on dying at the same section, you'll only see the successful run of it. Because there are a few bosses that do kick my ass even now. Mainly in the DLC, but like I said, we'll get to that. Right, I completely miss it on this run, but straight ahead from me there as I turn away from it is another shortcut into the sewers, which is another good shortcut to Father Gascoigne. But the reason why you want to take that shortcut is that there's an armor set in there that's really good for where we stand right now, because the default armor that we start with is terrible. And watch me have a miserable time trying to parry this werewolf. That's the other thing in this game. All my practice runs are so much better than my recorded run. As soon as I said, oh yeah, let's put the recording on, I have a miserable time. Like, I end up aggroing the second werewolf, which I never usually do. I usually isolate this one first, but the other one's aggroed on me. So now I'm pretty convinced I'm gonna die, but now I got rid of the first one. And for some reason I can't parry. That's one of the easiest attacks in the game to parry, because it's such a delay on it. There we go. Yeah, for some reason I couldn't parry it for shit. Very nearly died there. Yeah, that's what I mean, you can see the orange bit on my health as it's building back up. Right, the Cleric Beast is literally on the other end of this bridge, but once I get the corpse off me, there we go, I'm not actually going to go straight to Cleric Beast. I'm going to turn off and open up the shortcut back here. Because in the house there's a door that can only be opened from one side, from the inside. And since we're inside, we can open it, and there's a gate as well, which I'll also point out, and once you open both of them, you get a very nice hunter's dream. Like, and like I said before, that's a nice safe spot. And at this point, we should have enough blood echoes to buy a decent set of armor, because there's another set of armor you can buy there, which I actually prefer over the armor set you can find in the shortcut. The one you can find in the shortcut's still good. It's just I prefer the one you can buy. Like all the armor sets in the game, there isn't one clear cut. This one is better than the next. It's just that every single one's better than nothing, and almost all of them are better than the default. So it recommends that you at least try and get something. So it's more that just find one that fits your style and stick with it. And the one you buy from the shop is usually the one I stick my style and that fits my style and I stick with. So you're going to see me, after I edit out another load screen, go to it and buy it, the Yharnam Hunter set. This set fulfills all my needs as far as I'm concerned, and I'm going to keep it for the entire game. And then once I'm done with it, I sell the default just so I can get some blood echoes back. That's one thing, your blood echoes may be your experience points, but they're also your shop currency. They're your everything, apart from, well, they fit everything except the stuff in the insight shop, but we don't have any insight, so we won't worry about that yet. You get insight by either finding Madman's Knowledge, entering a boss arena, defeating a boss, or finding a secret area. And when, in your first run, you'll struggle to find yourself having any more than like 10, but on repeated playthroughs, you'll almost never spend insight. And so by the end of this, I have 99, which is the cap you can hold. All insight changes as you go is that it affects how you respond to frenzy, as in your frenzy meter will go up ever so slightly slower, and I mean ever so slight. You won't notice it. And the other thing is that if it reaches certain points, new enemies will spawn in areas. Because there's an enemy, a very loud screaming enemy that can spawn in the streets if you have 15 insight. But by the time you have 15 insight, we'll be long past this area, so it doesn't really matter. Pebbles are good for you just distracting enemies. We also picked up shining coins. That's usually just used for luring people around. Here's the first boss, the Cleric Beast, and watch how... That's a huge chunk of his health bar. It might not look like it compared to other games, but look at what we're doing with our normal attack compared to what that Molotov was doing. The Molotovs are ridiculously effective against the Cleric Beast because he's so weak to it. Because he's a Blood Echo Beast. So there's also kin enemies that are weak to electricity, but we won't have to worry about them for a long while. If there's a boss that you can't parry with the gun, you can usually stun them if you can keep up the pressure, like I just did there. I didn't get to capitalize on it though, because you have to capitalize on his head, and his head was stuck on a wall, so I couldn't get in parry. I was like, if a boss batters you about, don't worry about it too much. Just if you're dying consistently, look at what you're doing wrong. Like, they can hit you about. A lot of bosses will get a lot of hits on you, like so, as I just get slammed into the ground. But that doesn't mean you're doing poorly. It's just how Bloodborne works. There are points where you will just get battered. It's all a learning curve. The Cleric Beast also seems to have this weird weakness of if you sit really close under him, like I'm doing here, he really struggles to hit you for some reason. A lot of his attacks have mid-range, not short-range, so they go straight past you. So the effective strategy here is to just stay close on him and keep up the pressure. And if you can get a stun in, try and get the visceral. And just like that, Cleric's dead. See, that was a very manageable first boss of the game. A hell of a lot more manageable than the first main boss of the game. You also get the Sword Hunter's Badge, which means you can already get the Kirk Hammer, which is what it sounds like. It's a short sword that doubles up as a fucking hammer, which is great for dealing high damage, but the charge up on it is ridiculously long. This allows you to summon other people. I'm playing completely offline in this run, so I won't be getting any use for it. Also, when you either beat or at least activate your first boss, the door will come to life, so now you can level up. I do a bit of leveling up. I focus mainly on my strength and skill, but I do put a bit in vitality and endurance as we go through, just so I can actually survive a bit more. But I usually do focus on strength and skill. Blood Tinge I don't focus on too much unless you plan on using the cannon a lot, which I don't. And Arcane, the DLC, yeah, I'd say go ahead with the Arcane, because there's a lot of good spells in the DLC, but in the main game there's not enough for me to warrant putting anything in the Arcane, so I won't be bothering. That's the insight shop, and I drop down here to the normal shop to just stock up on a few supplies. That's the Kirk hammer. You can also get a repeating pistol, which shoots 2 shots, but I'm still quite happy with the default pistol. I'll buy a few Molotovs to keep me going, and I think that's about it, so I'm going to end the part. So next time, we'll work our way through Yharnam sewers and take on Father Gascoigne. Until then, take care now.